Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is New Year's Eve. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Shane Caldwell, and this is our wide receiver tight end show for the Week 17 main slate. Thank you all for tuning in. And Shane, are you ready to help folks build one more set of lineups on a full main slate here in the 2020 crazy NFL season?
Yeah, and this week is no exception because on top of everything else going on, you got you don't you're trying to figure out which teams are playing for which teams are benching guys and resting guys. So yeah, we got long list of really good plays for wide receivers and tight ends that we were able to narrow it down so far earlier in the week here.
That's right. So let's get to it. We're going to go from most expensive to least expensive, as we always do with the wide receivers. And then we're going to share that tremendous offer from BetUS that you've probably heard about, but jump in now. It's about to expire. A tremendous combination of sports betting and DFS. We'll have a commercial for you on that. And then we'll hit tight ends from most expensive to least expensive. So let's get after it, Shane, here. Where are you looking at the top for wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, the top guy right here, he's been the best receiver all year, is Davante Adams. He's in a tough matchup at Chicago this week, but I mentioned on the quarterback podcast here is that Green Bay can get the first seed in the first round bye and home field throughout the NFC playoffs here. So it's important for them. And Davante Adams, yes, Chicago's a tough matchup. Great pass rush, great secondary, but he is matchup proof. He can beat anyone, and the chemistry he has with Aaron Rodgers is just the best that I've ever seen and Davante Adams is playing next level in terms of his route running and his ability to, catch balls right now, everything that he does. Last time out against Chicago it was Green Bay blew him out pretty big in that game. So I don't think they really needed to pass that much. And he just caught 6 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown, which is a bad game for Davante Adams. But I think it's one of those games he can get 2 touchdowns and around 100 yards. He's not my favorite play because he's expensive, but I still think he's worth. You can get a little bit lower ownership because of the tough matchup. So if you have room to fit that $9,000 plus salary in there, I think you can still lock in Davante Adams. So he's still a really solid play this week.
All right, my guy is at the top is somebody who can save a little bit of money with. That's Calvin Ridley going up against Tampa Bay, and he torched them 2 weeks ago, 10 for 163 and a score. Another solid game last week. Tampa Bay all of a sudden 25th in the league in terms of passing yardage allowed, and Ridley's the perfect guy to attack them with that speed, using different formations, and they will certainly look to get him the ball with Julio Jones likely out again. So I'm looking to potentially pay up for Ridley.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to my favorite game of the week is Tennessee at Houston, and I think that both Tennessee wide receivers who've both been pretty good this year are both in play here. A.J. Brown is more of a core play here. A.J. Brown, great matchup, whether he's going to go against, Keon Crossan or Vernon Hargraves. I mean, anywhere he goes, he's going to have a great matchup. Houston's a great secondary to target. They like T. Higgins, a rookie, had a pretty good game against him last week. Cincinnati did well against him. So A.J. Brown definitely in play for me. I think you can even play him with the running game there as well. Like I said, I'm not afraid to load up on Tennessee this week. I think it's a monster game in terms of over under. And Tennessee has a lot to play for. They need to win to lock in the playoff spot. And then if you want to go a little more contrarian GPP, Corey Davis, he had a bad game against the Packers. He was seeing a lot of Jair Alexander last week, and he got shut out. So he is kind of boom or bust, but I think he's boom this week. I think he's going to bounce back and have a huge game, kind of like he did against Detroit a couple weeks ago. So Corey Davis, he's still fairly expensive, 7,200 on FanDuel. That will have people off him because of the fact that he put up a big goose egg, and that's the perfect GPP play. It's the type of guy that can bounce back with 25 plus fantasy points, which he's done a couple times this year, and you're going to get him at probably 2 to 3% ownership in a great game environment in an elite matchup here. So that's why I like Corey Davis as an under the radar type play that people are not going to like because they're going to look at that game log and be like, oh, that was bad last week. He's perfect bounce back spot here for Corey Davis. So I love the Tennessee offense this week.
Yeah, I don't put any stock in that snow game. I agree. Jump back on him here in a primo game situation. Another guy I like here is Allen Robinson, and he got Green Bay for 74 yards and 2 scores back in Week 12. Chicago has to win this one to get into the playoffs. 5.5 point underdogs. Trubisky's going to feed it to him. That's their best chance to have success and try to win this game. So I like Allen Robinson at heavy volume under 8K on DraftKings.
Yeah, they're going to need him for sure if they're going to try to beat Green Bay. But yeah, it's do or die for them, right? They either win or go home. Yep. Yeah, and then I'm going to stay in the NFC North division here and go love Minnesota at my Detroit Lions here. And you got to love this passing game. If Dalvin Cook is out, which he is this week, then they're gonna attack through the air here, and I think they're gonna have a great game with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. If I had to choose one, I would probably just take Justin Jefferson just because the guy is on fire for a rookie. Again, his speed and quickness and route running and big play ability, is run after the catch ability. Everything he does matches up great against this weak, decimated Lions secondary. Jefferson, I think, is a guy that's worth paying up for. He's in just a huge spot, and he's pretty much looking to smash just about every rookie wide receiver record. So he has a lot to play for, even though they're not going to make the playoffs. He has a lot to play for just in terms of accolades of being one of the best rookie wide receivers ever, really, and statistically. So if he has a smash game here, he's going to be locking in a lot of those, sealing in a lot of those records and solidifying himself as a candidate for the offensive rookie of the year. So that's why I like Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen also is in a great spot here. The guy's just a touchdown machine, and he definitely could have 2 touchdowns here, and easily 100 yards. So gotta like those Minnesota guys in this matchup, and I think Detroit will score enough for him, even though Stafford's questionable. They'll score enough where this could actually be a sneaky shootout. I believe this is a 54 over under, if I remember right. Yeah, 54 over under, and Minnesota's a huge favorite. So you can definitely load up on the Minnesota passing game here.
Yeah, you certainly can. Next for me is Mike Evans. And this is a guy who I wasn't playing much in the beginning of the season. He was getting a couple shorter touchdowns, but now Tom Brady and Evans are starting to click. They're getting some longer touchdowns. He had a terrific game against Detroit last week. 2 weeks ago in this matchup against Atlanta, he caught 6 for 110. So I like Evans here. If Tampa Bay wins this one, then they get to play the winner of the NFC East in the first round of the playoffs. So they want to win this one, and I think Mike Evans against that 31st ranked Atlanta passing defense is in a great spot to help them do that.
Awesome. And I'm going to go back to the Tennessee-Houston game and get a little of the Houston action here for those game stacks. And let's go with Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, he looked pretty good last week against Cincinnati. He goes 7 for 141 and a touchdown. So Brandon Cooks is kind of catching fire again. His great connection with Deshaun Watson, and Tennessee's secondary is vulnerable. You can get them. And Brandon Cook, I think if he gets Malcolm Butler on him, Malcolm Butler's been tough against bigger wide receivers, but I don't think he's very good against these really quick, speedy type guys, because Malcolm Butler's technically not really that fast of a corner. So I think Brandon Cooks can burn this secondary for some big plays, just like he did last week against William Jackson and Cincinnati. So I like Brandon Cooks, and it just so happens that I also love that game. So it's a great game stack environment here with Brandon Cooks and getting exposure to all the goodness going on the Tennessee side as well. And of course, I like Deshaun Watson as well this week. So Brandon Cooks, definitely, I love his mid-price range. He's 7,300 FanDuel, 6,900 DK. He's a good mid-price guy that has a huge ceiling here.
Yeah, and you like QT as well, potentially?
Yeah, I like QT. I just like Cooks and his upside a little bit more, where, QT is a little bit more cash, kind of safe, floor type guy. Yep.
Sure. And Cooks had over 20 fantasy points against Tennessee in that first matchup. Kiki QT did not play in that one. All right, next for me, I like the pair for the Rams as a potential GPP consideration, because we've got Cooper Kupp out, we've got Goff out with the thumb injury, so a bunch of uncertainty, of course, with John Walford coming in under center. But Woods at 6,300, here's a guy who you get a new quarterback, and you're worried about his potential production, but it's not a star receiver that he has to hit on these deep passes, pinpoint accuracy. They get the ball in Woods' hands with these short passes, reverses, you name it. So Woods is going to have to step up with Cooper Kupp out and be that number one target. He's only 6,300, great on DraftKings PPR. So you could go there. Or you could look at Josh Reynolds and get him for only 3,200. That is a great price for him. He's a guy who's really stepped it up this year at various times. Had 6 for 65 last week against Seattle, and really doesn't have to do much to pay off that price tag. So I like Josh Reynolds as well.
Yeah, that's a great matchup too. Arizona at the Rams. If I'm looking at this right, I think the winner makes the playoff and the loser goes home, depending on the couple other scenarios. But there's a lot at stake in this.
They need to win that one.
Here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that definitely it's a must-win situation. So they should be aggressive there. I'm going to go to another game that's kind of a must-win situation here. So we got Dallas going to the New York Giants. And the winner of this will have a chance to win the NFC East if Philadelphia can knock off Washington in the Sunday night cap there. So this is a big game here. After everything Dallas has gone through, they have a chance. And I like these Dallas wide receivers here. I like Michael Gallup. He's been playing great. Seems like he has great chemistry with Dalton, as his CeeDee Lamb has been one of the best rookie wide receivers this year, and he's a great playmaker. Both explosive, big play upside type guys, and they should be getting a lot of targets. And I think a lot of the targets will be funneled to them because we're expecting that James Bradbury, who's been a really good, Pro Bowl caliber shutdown corner, he'll probably be shadowing Amari Cooper and following him around for most of the game. And Cooper doesn't do well in those shadow tough matchups there. So I expect the production to go to the running game, but obviously to Gallup and CeeDee Lamb here. So I like the Cowboys passing game in this. The Giants are a pretty tough offense, against the run. So our defense against the runs, but I think you can get them through the passing game, specifically the other corners, the slot corner and the other corner opposite of Bradbury. So it's a good matchup, explosive. Again, they have to win this to have a decent chance at still winning the division. And you got to like the Cowboys offense this week, and I think that'll be an interesting game.
Excellent. All right, another good passing situation that I want to look at is the Indianapolis matchup against Jacksonville. And Indianapolis has to win and get some help. And thankfully, they've got Jacksonville who can beat, through the air or on the ground. I'm not that thrilled about the fact that it's Rivers. He hasn't had over 20 fantasy points in a while, but T.Y. Hilton has had a good month here lately. Jacksonville number 27 against the pass. So you could go to T.Y. Hilton, or you could save a little bit with Zach Pascal. He's only 4,200 on DraftKings, and he's had three touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So, I don't have a lot of faith in any particular part of that passing game with Rivers, especially because they can run it against Jacksonville. But I might look to one of those guys as a one-off for a tournament lineup.
Awesome. That Indy offense is looking like a pretty good spot against Jacksonville for sure. I'm going to go to Kansas City. If you want a cheap guy that has a big play upside, you can look at Mikkel Hardman going against the LA Chargers, who has a pretty good secondary. But I like the creativity of the Kansas City offense. I like the fact that they're going to be resting a lot of guys, and I think Tyreek Hill will probably be resting and be out. They're not going to risk him re-aggravating his hamstring injury going into their playoff run and as they try to make another Super Bowl run. So that means Mikkel Hardman will probably be on the field the majority of snaps. They give him end arounds. He can get rushing yards. Obviously, he's one of the fastest players in the league. And I think that even though it's a backup quarterback going, Mahomes is not in there. Same thing like we were talking about with Robert Woods. I mean, they're going to be able to scheme him open, crossing routes and shallow routes, screen passes, and get him the ball and let him run after the catch. So I think Mikkel Hardman will get targeted a lot in this matchup here and be a big playmaker. And when you can get him at near minimal price with that type of upside and huge production in terms of getting more targets this week, I think it's a good spot for Mikkel Hardman. So I definitely like him as a good play here if you want to get someone that's a little cheaper.
Yeah, I love the explosive aspect of his game. So he's on my list as well. All right, Shane, before we get to the tight ends, it is time to stop messing around here as we get ready for 2021. Set yourself up for an amazing situation with sports betting on BetUS and our free membership to go with it at DFS Coach Talk. Here are all the details.
Listen up, sports bettors. It's go time, so put down the beer and make every sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line. Earn bragging rights over friends as you rake in the cash from each week's betting action, but don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sportsbook with over 25 trusted years in the industry. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity, and most importantly, a sportsbook that pays. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, and basketball, MMA, golf, horses, and even esports. No other sportsbook welcomes newcomers like BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Now we have the best book in the industry teamed up with the best DFS provider in the industry. Make your first deposit of $149 at betus.com.pa with promo code CoachTalk and receive a free membership with DFS Coach Talk with full access to our DFS lineups in NBA, NFL, PGA, and MLB, the best in the biz. Sign up today to make straight bets, future bets, prop bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook in the industry is committed to their users like BetUS. So sign up now and get on the winning side of the ball.
All right. Welcome back. Thank you to BetUS again for putting that offer out for everybody through December here. So jump in with everyone else who's taking advantage of it and use that promo code CoachTalk, all one word, and you'll be in a great spot. If you don't want to do the sports betting, we are offering the $149. You can go to our website and still get that membership with us all the way until April 1st. Full lineups every slate on FanDuel, the cash lineup, the GPP lineup, DraftKings, the coach's clipboard, and the pivots. And again, you get it in every sport. And we're on a roll here in NBA. We're going to keep it rolling. So jump in with us now and let's have an awesome 2021 together. All right, Shane, let's pick out some awesome tight ends. There are some, a nice handful of options here. A little bit different than in recent weeks where it's been a little bit thin. But let's go through a few of these options, starting with the most expensive ones.
Yeah, so I'll start with Darren Waller. He's had a great season. He's primary target in that offense. They're going up against Denver. These teams don't really have anything to play for, but it is a division rivalry. I think they'll look to finish the season strong. Gruden doesn't come across to me as a guy who's just going to rest his veterans at the end of the year, just because they not making the playoffs. So I think Darren Waller will get a full go here, and he's the type of guy that has that huge upside for over 100 yards and 10 plus catch upside. So I think that he can definitely do some work against Denver here. You can attack them in the passing game here. And he's one of the guys you can, if you're going to pay up at tight end, he's a good spot here. But there's definitely some other guys I like as well. But we'll start with Darren Waller though.
Yeah, Waller for me is GPP because I just don't know if he's going to get the full game. He might just go for a couple catches to get to 100, and then maybe they take it easy with him. So GPP for me. The next guy for me is somewhat similar. It's George Kittle. The nice thing about it is he's much cheaper at 6,000 on DraftKings. And San Fran going up against Seattle. And he got back in the groove last week, 4 catches for 92. You can beat Seattle with tight ends. I mean, just look a couple weeks ago at what Logan Thomas did to them, 13 catches for over 100 yards. And we know Kittle can match that. And Beathard should check it down to him quite a bit. So, if you want to you get a stud here at a decent price in a GPP, you could look at George Kittle.
All right. And then I'm going to go to another guy that's quite the stud, and he's in a great matchup, and it's in a position where they need to win to seal their playoff spot here, and that's Mark Andrews with the Baltimore Ravens. They're going at Cincinnati, huge favorites on the road, 13-point favorites. Cincinnati weak, decent against wide receivers, really bad against tight ends. So it kind of funnels the production to the tight ends, and just so happens this offense likes to funnel the production to the tight end of the passing game anyways. So I think this is going to be a game where they're just going to pepper Mark Andrews with targets. We know he's their number one red zone passing, threat there. So I look for a huge game from Mark Andrews, and there's few tight ends that you're going to get in this good of a matchup, in this good of a situation, that has that type of upside. So I think Mark Andrews is probably one of my favorite plays in this entire slate for tight ends this week.
Yeah, I like him a lot as well. Great call. I'm going to go to Bobby Tonyan next as Green Bay takes on Chicago. And, they want to win this one to get that number 1 seed. And Chicago actually giving up the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. Tonyan had a good game against them earlier. Cook and others have as well. And we know that, Rodgers wants to just keep piling up the passing touchdowns here to work on that MVP resume. And so I think maybe it's Tonyan's turn to get 1 or 2 in the end zone. And if so, he'll be in a great spot there at that $5K price tag.
Yeah, definitely a great matchup there against tight ends. I'm going to go to back to the Denver Vegas game. Again, these teams know how much to play for, but they do have some good playmakers. I'm going to look at the other tight end in that game, Noah Fant. He's come on strong lately. He's definitely seen an uptick in targets and catches and yards. I like his run after the catch ability, his big play upside here, and you're going to get him pretty cheap on both sites here. So I like him in this game. Vegas has been decent against tight ends. But they haven't faced that many, elite level tight ends. So I really like Noah Fant here. I think his connection with Drew Lock is really good. He's just been solid and consistent, and he's a reasonable price. So I think you're going to get him at lower ownership too. I mean, there's a ton of good tight end plays on this slate, but Noah Fant has great upside here, and they're pretty banged up at the wide receiver position, pretty inconsistent there. So one of their best playmakers through the passing game is Noah Fant. So I think he's a good play this week.
No doubt about it. Next guy for me is Mike Gesicki, and I don't love playing him. He's a little bit inconsistent, but at his price at only 4,200 on DraftKings, going up against Buffalo, eighth best matchup for tight ends in terms of fantasy points allowed. He got 8 for 130 in a score against them back in week 2, and yes, that was Fitzpatrick, and this week it's going to be Tua, so that makes me temper my enthusiasm a little bit, but Miami needs to win this one. And, tight ends have done really well against Buffalo throughout the year. Your boy Fant, Henry, Waller have all done well. So I think you could look at Gesicki here to try to save a little money.
Yeah, and I think it's two of his best games, week 13 and 14. I believe Tua was in there those weeks as well, if I remember right. So, and those were two of his ceiling games over 20 DraftKings points in both those games. So, yeah, he definitely is a guy that can blow up. He's very athletic as well. Here's another guy, another one of those big athletic tight ends that's kind of inconsistent, but he has a big play upside, and he's in a very important game here. We're looking at Evan Engram for the New York Giants, and going up against Dallas, pretty decent matchup against tight ends here. So I'm not really scared of Dallas linebackers trying to cover Evan Engram here. And he's really cheap, especially on DraftKings. He's like 3,700. And they're going to need him. I know he's on the injury report. I think he'll be fine, but they're going to need him to try to beat Dallas here. I think this could end up being a pretty high-scoring game, and Evan Engram would be a big part of that passing game to be able to move the chains here. With Daniel Jones being back more healthy now, I think it should be a good spot for him, and he'll be looking for Evan Engram as a big playmaker here. And he's come on strong. He's definitely playing a lot better the second half of the season, and this really important game, I think that he'll do well, and he typically does do well against Dallas as well. So I really like him going up against Dallas. Earlier in the first matchup, I think, is when he had that rushing touchdown. He didn't do much work in the passing game, but he should do more work in this game, though. So Evan Ingram's a nice value play this week.
Okay, one more for me. On the cheaper end, Jonnu Smith against Houston in that high total of 56 on BetUS. He's only 3,800 on DraftKings, and he was decent in the snow last week against Green Bay. 3 catches, got in the end zone. And back in week 6 in this matchup, Ferkser had a big game with Jonnu banged up. Ferkser had 8 catches for over 100 yards and a score. You can really get Houston with the tight end. And Tennessee, another one of those teams like Baltimore, they love to use the tight end. So Jonnu Smith here, great way to get exposure to that game and not have to spend much to do it.
All right. Yeah, I love the Tennessee team this week. Their offense is looking in a great spot. And I'm going to go back to Minnesota at Detroit here and look at Irv Smith Jr. It's a guy that I've liked all year, and now he's pretty much the main pass-catching tight end there in Minnesota. Great athlete. Finally had one of those breakout games last week against New Orleans. He goes 6 for 53 for 2 touchdowns. So he is a primary red zone threat. The fact that he got 9 targets last week. Detroit been decent against tight ends, but more recently they've started to give up big production, including Rob Gronkowski, which I think just about every position had huge production in that game. But that's besides the point. But yeah, I love Irv Smith. I love his athleticism, and he makes some really difficult catches, and he's just a big playmaker. He's just a big physical, fast type guy, and that's the type of playmaker they need. And yeah, with Detroit secondary trying to pay attention to those excellent wide receivers, there's probably going to be all kinds of room underneath for Irv Smith to operate. So I think that he will have a decent game here, and he's still really cheap on DraftKings at 3,900. And if you pay at 5,600 on FanDuel, I think that's going to be a little more contrarian. You're going to get him at low ownership.
Excellent. So what we're going to turn to next, of course, is finalizing our rosters here with our wide receivers and tight ends. Fill out those lineups for our members. If you haven't yet, go ahead and jump in with us. If you have any questions about the membership process, just reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk, and we'll get you in with the BetUS option or straight through our website, dfscoachtalk.com. While you're on Twitter, you can find Shane at DET Sports Shane. I am at Language Olympic, and the coach is at JOESARVADI. If you could, hit that like button on YouTube. These are free podcasts, and they will continue. We appreciate your support in that way. And hit subscribe, hit the alert button, and you'll get notified when the other podcasts post. Make sure you check out that Quarterbacks podcast if you haven't already, as well as the Running Backs podcast. We want to have you ready for Week 17. So good luck with your lineups here. And let's finish 2020 in a great way. That's what we're here for. So thank you for all your support. On behalf of Shane Caldwell and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I am Andrew Hansen, and we'll see you on the next podcast as we look to crush it in DFS.